So, hello, Tuulia and Micha. You've just been doing a workshop here in Relational Spaces.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's the first Radical Honesty workshop that we've had so far. Hopefully there will be more. How was it?
At the moment I'm tired, so I guess intense would be the word. Yeah, I think. Yeah, quite intensive. We got really fast into kind of pretty deep expressions, pretty deep things going on for people. And it was also interesting. There were three couples.
Three
couples. So of course there's already some dynamics and father-son combination. So that's very, very interesting.
And lovers combination.
And lovers,
Ex-lovers combination.
Yeah. Ex-lovers, yeah. So a lot of already things spring up. And then people who are just really wanting to do some work. Yeah.
So, for the audience, and also a little bit for me, because I don't know that much about Radical Honesty. I read the book and I've been to a couple of workshops-ish. But what is Radical Honesty? What is the core of Radical Honesty?
Well, the core is that I am who I am, moment to moment, ever-changing. And everything is allowed to express. So if I'm happy or excited or attracted or sad, depressed, insecure, angry, so there's space for everything. And me expressing myself fully, whatever is alive moment to moment, it's like an invitation for you to express yourself fully. And then we meet like real people with all this variety of different things going on, including sometimes very contradictory, like I'm angry at you and I love you kind of thing. Mm-hmm. I'm angry at you and I care about you. I'm sad while I appreciate you as well. And then it's kind of, more meeting on eye to eye as real people rather than all these like niceties, pretending, social norms. And then it's very body-based practice as well. So we're ongoingly checking in what happens in my body right now and being present in the body. Mm. So not only in the head, but using all the tools. The thinking mind, the eyes, the ears, the smelling, and then the bodily sensations.
I like this term of like being a spoken out loud awareness meditation. It is like being, it's an awareness practice combined with speaking about what is going on. Ongoingly. This is for me somehow a core idea of what Radical Honesty is. And just being with what is in this interaction you create constantly in every moment.
So that's curious for me, because we do a lot of circling down here, and circling is one of my core practices. And the description you just gave is my elevator pitch of circling. It's like a relational meditation. Where we share what is happening from moment to moment.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you guys have done any circling, but if you have, how would you distinguish these two practices?
Well, I've never done any circling. There's no circling really in Finland yet.
Okay.
I have heard about it, so I cannot really give an informed opinion. I in my experience, there's a lot of overlap in many practices, and then maybe some specialities that are a bit different, but the main point oftentimes is I want to connect with other people.
Yeah. So how do you do Radical Honesty?
In a workshop, you mean?
What are the things that you would do?
Well, we do a lot of open sharing. So what is alive for people right now? What do you feel calling to share? Maybe about you or in relation to other people. So there's a lot of open space for just seeing what comes up. And then especially in these weekends that are open for everyone, also new practitioners, then we do a lot of exercises. So exercises around distinctioning facts and imaginations. That's really big thing that we work on all the time. For example, it could be fact, I see your face. Imagination, you're interested in what I'm saying. I don't know that. I might assume that might even be true, and I don't know unless I check in with you. So and here of course it's totally fine, but then in relationships and relating to people get into a lot of trouble when they believe that their imagination and interpretations are true. Like, you are angry, no I'm not, yes you are, that kind of thing. So we work a lot on this separation, what actually really we can both agree on, what were the facts that happened, what did you say or do, and then all my stories about it and my emotions about it, and owning them as separate things. And then we do asking for what you want, which is a very beautiful part of the workshops we do, where people really explore giving themselves permission to voice everything they want and requesting them.
And saying yes or no to
Yes.
the requests of others.
Yeah. So one thing that I think is very important is expanding ability to hear a no. And accepting a no, accepting whatever is happening in you, expressing it as anger, sadness, or even appreciation, and getting to a place eventually celebrating a no. Like, oh, I'm so glad you told me, rather than I need to second guess if this is really okay with you or not.
Sounds like there's also an aspect of like receiving whatever someone expresses without taking it personally.
Yeah.
With taking it just how the way you take it in that moment and see what happens.
Yeah.
It's like when you receive something, notice what is going on and share that. You might take something personally, you might get angry, and that's exactly what happens. And you share that. It's not a practice of like distancing from what is going on, but rather just if I take something seriously, even if my mind tells me I should not, that's stupid to get angry about something, that's just what is going on, and own that.
And then it could be like, I'm embarrassed to tell you, and I'm angry at you for saying that, and I imagine I'm unreasonable, and that's just what is alive for me.
Cool. That brings me to a thing that has come up for me many times, and something that people often ask me in workshops. Like, how do I choose what to share? Because there's so much going on, always. And I can almost always take it in multiple directions. There might be a part of me that's triggered or angry, but there's also a part of me that's thinking that I shouldn't be, and then there's a third part that's actually somewhere else or is in the past. Or like, so how do I choose?
So whatever is the most alive in you, moment to moment, and especially the things you don't want to share. So if something comes up to you again and again, then it's definitely something that we invite people to share. Or if it's like taboo, or I definitely don't want to share this, or I worry about the other person's reaction, then it's like, I worry that you will feel hurt or angry me saying this, and plop, this is what is alive for me.
Cool. That's exactly the same way I would have answered it. Or either the thing that's most alive, or I've also found it as that which stands in the way of connection or presence. Like, there's this thing, and if I don't share it, then I can't actually be here. With you.
And they tend to be mostly the same thing, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes could be different. And then anything that is scary to say out loud, because having that experience that I dared to say it, it was so like nerving and scary for me, and then feeling that bodily relaxation, like they actually took it pretty well, or they didn't take it well. I faced that and I survived. Like, okay, I didn't die, they got angry, they started crying, and I survived. And having that bodily reaction, like, okay.
Yeah, those experiences are so important, right? They're like, I'm still alive. Shared something, I thought I would die, and I didn't die, and wow.
And it's a lot about rewiring our system from our earlier conditioning. So we have learned as kids, like, don't get loud, don't be so demanding or needy or expressive. Then that's the strategy we're using, and now we invite people to try something different, and then try it again and again and again. So that becomes a new wiring in the system, where actually being expressive is totally fine. That the body already knows, okay, this is a bit scary for us, and we'll be fine.
And I mean, I imagine this is something like also a bit different from circling. When stuff comes up with, I'm not sure, I've been to one of your circling things a few years ago, an intro. and when stuff comes up with people from the past or people who are present, we tend to do like work with empty chair work, which is then quite like guided by the trainers. So then you address your anger, your appreciation, your sadness to the absent person in the chair, and process this. And we ask the people then to later have a conversation. The conversation that we're having, like rehearsing or going through that process already once. So you can like resolve all stories that kind of are sticking with you, and you kind of stay in these patterns and get back to that place. Like find an ending to that story, so it's not, you don't carry it into your everyday life with new partners, with new friends, with new relations.
So, how do you experience participants in these workshops? Like, what impact does it have on people to get into a space like this, especially from people who haven't done it a lot?
Yeah, I think multiple impacts. Like, I think freedom is a big thing. Like, people feel much more free that they just said something that was scary for them, and then other people actually like them more when they shared something like embarrassing that they did or shameful. So definitely like just increasing the capacity to say whatever there is, even the negative stuff, the bad stuff. And yeah, more presence moment to moment. I think many people, and it's amazing for just like 2.5 days, people coming together and trusting each other and finding some safety, saying things they have never said before. I mean, we had several people who said, "Oh, I never said this before," and then sharing it.
Yeah, that leads me to what's the radical part?
Well, I think if you look at our society and how people tend to moderate their expression ongoingly and follow all kinds of norms and rules, it's kind of quite radical to be exactly as you are, moment to moment. Like also at work, where like question, how are you doing? The right answer is I'm doing fine, rather than I feel depressed, I feel shitty, I didn't want to come here, I don't want to do this work, I feel exhausted, I feel lost. So yeah, I think even though it's not kind of radical, it's more like being like childlike. We live in this reality where it's kind of tricky for people to be truly themselves moment to moment all the time.
And I like also the radical part of like roots, like that it's like it's at the it's a very like basic way of being radical, of being honest, like sharing just what is going on. And also like I notice that this is happening. It's not like sharing some kind of outside truth, but just honestly being with oneself and sharing this. So being rooted in my own experience and sharing this experience. And it has nothing to do with like radical in a sense of brutal or extreme. It's more of being with yourself and sharing what is going on here in every moment.
Yeah, I remember reading an article quite some years ago about radical honesty, which I think was what actually led me to the practice, where the author had like tried it out, and then I remember there was this scene where it was at a cafeteria, and he thought the waitress was prettier or something like that, and he was like, well, if I go into this radical honesty paradigm, I have to share this with her. And I had this like, well, isn't there some kind of power relationship in play here that makes the honesty transgressive or violent in some way in some situations? And there's like, where is the... It needs to be coupled with empathy somehow.
Yeah, I for me the word is compassion more than empathy maybe. But it's like, what is my motivation for sharing? And when my motivation for sharing is I want to be connected with you, I want to clear whatever is unclear between us, I want to be honest even though that is tricky, I care about you and I want to be closer to you, then everything goes more or less. Because if my motivation is to be cruel or nasty, then things come out very different. But if my motivation is the connection, sometimes people can be clumsy and then it comes out a bit bad, but then I can clean it up, like saying, oh no, that was a bit bad wording, let me rephrase it or something like that, and I'm staying all the time and I'm willing to hear what's going on for you. So in that way, yeah, but this is a practice mainly for people for your people close to you, people in your circles, your family, your friends, your work colleagues, but not like random people on the street, because what is my need to connect with them? Of course, if there's somebody working in a cafe and I think they're totally amazing and I all of a sudden feel like so attracted, that might be really important for me to share.
And then there is no I have to do that. I can take this decision and make myself vulnerable and share, I find you beautiful and I want us to have a coffee together. And then it's me opening up and sharing what is going on, as I have like an honest intention to be in connection with you. So for me also this side of vulnerability and actively choosing, it's not about creating a new rule in our head that we should be like, I should share everything that is going on in my mind in any moment.
Yeah, and that seems to be a kind of confusion around some of these practices sometimes. I find that there's this like, I have to share everything that goes on in my mind in every second, and that just seems like, well, if I have to share everything that's in my monkey mind, then
it's impossible anyway.
Yeah,
so
and it's also just spewing out random stuff all the time. So there is some kind of core of like importance in the selection mechanism.
Totally.
Being with that, and I'm curious about how we talked a little bit about it, but like there is something about aliveness and vulnerability in some of these things, like this selection of like what is it really important to share from moment to moment.
So these random thoughts and random stream of whatever thing is going on, that's not really important because it just comes and goes. But yeah, whatever sticks. And I think that example of the person beautiful in the cafe, it could be coupled up with like, oh, I notice my hands are shaking, I'm feeling nervous. So I imagine that would be most likely my approach for approaching somebody total stranger. Not that I've ever done it quite that way, but
So how do you take this practice into life? That's also a big question for me, because one thing is going into a workshop room and being really honest with strangers, or being really present with strangers, or maybe your spouse or whatever. But there's something about like the way I see it. It's like these spaces are there to practice doing something that I want to do in life. And if I don't make that bridge into life, then it becomes some kind of weird catharsis thing to go to workshops to experience. Oh, I can be honest, but like, how do you bridge it into everyday life? Like, how does it work for you guys personally, but also how do you help participants to take it into their lives?
I think it's a step-by-step process. So rather than trying perfection every time one dares to be a bit more open about what's going on for them, a bit more vulnerable, and it's like, hey, I managed, and like making a mental note and then kind of gathering those good experiences, like, and that is the rewiring of the system, like, hey, I can be in this way. And then of course one thing that we do a lot is cleaning whatever is unfinished from the past. So when people like practice it in the workshop, and then we have a lot of tips how to go about that so that it can be the most successful conversation, even though it can be very messy though. Then having that experience of going and telling your dad that, hey, actually I resent you for hitting me when I was 5 years old, and just being willing to be there and sharing all that and getting maybe angry, sad, and the goal, finding connection, forgiveness, letting go. That's how we define forgiveness. It's not like you did something bad, I need to forgive you, but like, I'm not carrying this with me anymore. And it could be even like big things, like really, violence or abuse or something. That I'm just not wanting to carry this with me. I'm telling you everything I'm angry about. I'm letting it go. And this is something people do they in their own life. And sometimes it's dramatic big things and sometimes small things. Like, yeah, I never told you that I don't like the glasses you're wearing, and I notice it's really running my mind again and again. And now I'm telling you and I feel super nervous. And then having that conversation.
Yeah.
And then normally we have a follow-up group after a workshop, so either on Facebook or email, and then people can write and share what they've been up to or ask for support. So we have, and then we have some other like online groups where people can join and share and get more practice. So we kind of invite people to the community to connect with other people and share and keep it alive in that way too. And ask, like, yeah, I struggle with this. How about you guys?
Yeah, and I like how you guys do that, like bring this continuity into the work. I have these memories of first workshops, then going like having this workshop wave, and then getting out of the workshop and being like, and now I have to do everything different, and then coming down. And I judge it's a practice that needs some time. It's not just an easy fix thing, like doing several workshops, doing the work in between, but also being like self-compassionate and giving myself the time to do this. Like these waves become like smaller, like from this workshop to everyday life, and finding a place of like, oh, this has become my normal, like my everyday reality. And this takes time and support and
It seems also to be a question of embodiment when I hear you speaking about it. That like one thing is I have this practice and I had in my mind that I could do things differently. But that for me is completely different from when I find myself in a situation and there's this sense of like, oh, here's a window of opportunity right now with this person. It's like, oh, I noticed that like you talk as if you're happy, but I imagine that you're sad. And then it's like, wow, a whole new world opens between us when that is brought. Which is very different from this like, I have to be really honest with everyone, which is a different way of being.
And what is great about how we approach this is that you can always go back and clean it up. Like, oh, I noticed I had some thoughts I didn't share with you when we talked yesterday. Oh, I noticed 3 weeks ago when we had a coffee, I was angry at you and I didn't share. I was angry at you for being 10 minutes late. I judged myself being petty for that, and I noticed it's still alive in me. Or I noticed that I thought you were nervous and I just didn't say anything. So you know, the whole point is speaking up, and if you don't say it in the moment or you don't catch it in the moment, as sometimes happens, then it's like, when you notice, you go back and talk.
Yeah, this cleaning up idea is I like it, like that vibe. One thing I'm thinking about is this sense that I think many of us have, that I might want to share something with you, but I also want you to receive it in a particular way.
Right.
It's like, and it never works, of course, when I come in with that approach. It's like, I want you to change because I'm sharing this with you.
Right, yeah.
So do you work with that, or like how do you work around that?
Exactly like that. I want to share something with you, and I want you to be very compassionate and empathetic and feel sorry for me or help me or da-da-da. So just put that there, and then the sharing. And then of course, like we are very clear that our work is not about changing other people. We cannot change other people, so we have two choices. Either I like you as you are, or I don't like you as you are. I don't have a choice. I will like you if you're different. That's not my choice. So also people more and more accepting what is. And it's up to me. It's not about you needing to be different. It's really up to me.
And quite often if I start doing things differently, quite often the other person moves also in some way. And it's not about controlling, but just like doing my thing and then see what changes in the dynamics. And quite often things do change, not in a way I can control, mostly in an interesting and often in a very, very good way.
It's so radical. So I think one thing that people do find radical is the expression of anger. And I don't think it's radical because we all get angry and we all express it. So we might express it in a direct way or passive-aggressive way, like I look elsewhere, or I leave the room, I do some banging, I do some or get blamey or guilt trippy or victimy, like, you're doing this to me again, or shit like that. And what we want to do is it's clear and direct and really sticking with the facts. What did you do or say that I'm angry about? And we believe that that's the way to get over it the best and create connection, because that's like you have a chance to respond because you know what I'm saying. If I'm just doing the passive aggressive stuff, you have no clue really what is going on for me. So then that's keeping in the dialogue. And most of us have not learned a good way, healthy way to express anger and get over it. Like most families are shitty expressing anger. And especially, like most of us, like at least for me, I didn't see my parents ever making up. So there was like either shouting or silent treatment or leaving the situation, but like really saying, hey, I acknowledge I went a bit overboard, I was a bit loud, oh, I'm feeling better now, oh, thanks for expressing yourself even though it was tough. Like none of these conversations I witnessed, and how I want to live my life as an adult is doing that myself, expressing, staying in contact, hearing you and getting over stuff. And this is what I want for other people. I think it's such a big gift. I stay so whole much less time being angry. Like I can be angry like this and then 50 minutes later I don't remember what I was angry about.
Yeah, I think for me personally that is quite interesting, because I increasingly notice this pattern in myself that if someone close to me is angry with me, it must mean that I'm wrong somehow.
Yeah.
And that is just such a deep pattern that like if someone is sad or angry, then I'm wrong. It's about me somehow.
Right.
Do you experience that in your workshops?
Yes, a lot. And then what we support people to say, if you are angry at me, I might get angry at you for being angry at me. And then I express that to you. Like, I'm mad at you for being angry at me. I'm mad at you for raising your voice. I'm mad at you for mentioning those details. Or maybe it is just me witnessing and say, okay, I hear you. That's your thing. Not so much is moving because I have a healthy separation from you. So I'm willing to hear and witness, and that's clearly about you. Or then there could be also like, oh shit, I'm sorry. Yeah, that was a bit shitty. I'm sorry I did that. If that's genuine. Like sometimes anger is good. Like I have sometimes tendency to be a bit victimy, especially with my partner. And then he gets angry, like, I'm mad at you for the look on your face. And I'm like, oh shit, oh yeah, I'm being a victim again. Okay, thank you. I appreciate you for being angry at me.
Yeah, there's like a question of time in this. Time and emotions is like a theme that is quite interesting for me these days. That like, on one hand, I can see that emotions can shift intensely from moment to moment. It's like I can be angry with you in one moment and then it's over, and then it's like sometimes they seem to stick. And it's like, oh, you're angry with me and you might be out of the anger, but I'm still super impacted by it, and that impact might last for a long time.
Yeah. And then my theory would be the most likely you didn't express your anger. If you kind of let it simmer, so there is something around guilt or shame or anger that is going on with you, that would be beneficial to express to me. Because if it lingers days, then most likely there's something underneath that is unexpressed.
I judge in workshops and in conversations, it's not an every time thing, but when people express anger to each other, and at some point they reach appreciation, like when this being angry at each other, at some point like, now I appreciate you for just the way you look at me. And for me, quite often when both people reach this point of like, I can also appreciate you just for what is going on right now, for sharing, for being angry at me, something has shifted. That's also why we coach people into like getting over the anger first before bringing in, and I appreciate you for what you're doing. Like because if we push that away, it kind of sticks. We get stuck with that. We push it away, we get stuck. And reaching that place for me quite often then is the moment of like, something has changed.
Yeah, what you just said gave me this image of like truth being cutting somehow, and then often, well, I think most of us do it. I definitely do it myself. It's like I want to camouflage my truth somehow because it's too much, or like might not be received well. So I put in some, and I don't want to hurt you, or I appreciate you, or maybe I'm not perfect either in the communication, and then it becomes more muddled. And there's like, if I really go in and own my experience fully, it's more like, this is my truth, and here it is. And my consistent experience is that is received much better. And then there's still a part of me that doesn't fully trust that that is really the way it works.
Yeah, and I think many times we have a tendency to explain. Like we express anger and then we explain why we're angry. And then it's very difficult to get over the anger because we love the explanation. I have a good reason to be angry with you because you were late again, you have done that before, and da 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 da. Rather than it's been only about this moment or what happened here. And we really advise to leave the explanations for later. And many times, at least I notice that when I don't go into the explanation land and just allow myself to be with the anger, the explanation is not important anymore. Because I'm just having these things shifting. And you don't need to know why I'm angry about you being late for 10 minutes because like it's not so important.
Do you make a distinction between speaking from the emotion and speaking about the emotion? Like my experience is that there are some layers to this, where it's like, and there's like a pre-trans thing in it also. It's like I can speak directly from a trigger, and usually that doesn't lead to very good meetings or to connection. It usually leads to something exploding. And then there's a layer where that seems a bit more mental, where I like talk about my anger. It's like I can point to it and say, I seem to be angry.
I would say we'd rather do the first one.
Yes, we speak from the trigger.
We were interested to speak from the trigger and owning it right now.
And we don't go into like analyzing or thinking. So
but there seems to be a third layer to this, and that's what I'm curious about, where it's like, it's not like an analysis where I'm talking about it from the outside anymore, but I'm also not speaking directly from the trigger. It's like I'm holding it and I can express it. I would call it embodiment. Like I express the anger, but it's not the trigger speaking. It's not like I'm not consumed by the emotion.
I think like depends how long people been around. So there is like, while it's a full expression of the anger, there is awareness also like, oh, and it's not about you. This is really to do with my dad or something. So while the expression is full, then that awareness can come very fast into play and people might share. And I realize this is not about you. But we don't want to kind of start to filter the actual expression, because we do believe that having it fully out there, we will get over it. And it is totally fine to also clean it up. And when it's just the expression without the wish to be mean and hurtful, then it's still kind of clean most of the time. And sometimes it is like, I'm mad at you for this and that, and I think you're an asshole. Okay, that can be a bit shitty thing to say. And then later I can say, that was a bit much and I was angry. And sometimes I say when I'm really angry that to my partner that, I really want to hurt you right now. I'm so angry and I'm not going to do that. I really want to slam the door and I'm not going to do that. So I allow that like impulse of to be there, and then I don't go into action.
And this comes with practice. This comes with the time. And rather express what is going on than first looking for the container. The approach is to get to that and get it out, rather than making sure that you do it the right way.
And we make a commitment in the workshops to say present for other people, to express whatever's true for them. So,
can you say that again?
Yeah, I agree to stay present and support you in telling the truth. So that's the agreement. So when you express yourself, I have made that agreement so people know that I can trust that nobody's running away and just like shutting down and saying, yeah, fuck you, I'm not gonna hear anything. Because then that allows the whole process to happen and everybody getting over whatever that was going on.
So my experience is that when I'm triggered, some of these things become immensely difficult.
Yep.
And if the person I'm talking to is also triggered, it becomes impossible. Or like then it's like we're children screaming at each other.
Yeah.
Somehow.
And that can be fine for a moment, and then something more tends to come in. And of course, if people are very new and they don't really have skills how to just stay in the body and let the body to transform it, then in the workshops we can support them. And many times it is then getting the stories mixed up and a lot of other things rather than just staying with the natural anger. And I think anger is our friend. Anger is just setting some boundaries and saying, that wasn't okay. I didn't like that. It's not more than that. It's not a big deal. Us being angry is not a big deal. That's what I think.
Yeah. And I judge it's important having this difference with the story. When you start shouting at each other, just like wanting to be right about your story, you will not get over stuff. And after a while, just like sharing what the fuck is going on with yourself, this energy is also consumed to some extent, and then you get to a more quiet place. And it's quite tricky sometimes to get the story out, keep it outside.
And sometimes I do ask, like, okay, so what's really going on here? What is really underneath this? And then we might, I'm scared. I worry you're gonna abandon me. I worry this and that. I'm ashamed. So those things can also emerge when people allow that anger to be there. There's then something underneath, and fear is often the case.
Yeah, my experience is that is the difficulty with the triggered space, because the vulnerability below the whatever emotion is present is not really allowed to come through, because there's this like state of
but you cannot stay here very long. Your body will take you out of it eventually, so that's you don't need to do any tricks. Your body will move it for you anyway. So I'm not too worried if people can pretty loud for a moment or kind of out of hand. I've seen again and again when they're willing to stay present and notice a bit the bodily sensations and keep the eye contact, it's like the voice starts to come down in a few minutes.
I love this sentence, I'm angry at you and I will never get over it.
I will never forgive you.
Never forgive you. And they're like, no, that's not true.
Yeah, we sometimes coach people to say that. I'm angry at you and I will never forgive you. I think I will. Not yet, but I think I will.
And we've spoken a lot about like anger right now, which is very, very present. And to me, it's very important to have this, that we have this approach. There is no good and bad, like emotions, no good and bad feelings. And we have this tendency to label anger as bad and joy as good. And being like, to some point also like enjoying the whole, like having space for the whole, like the whole range of emotions. Without saying that's a place I don't want to go. That's a place I don't want to go. Oh, I want to go there all the time, because that's the good stuff. Like all emotions, the whole range of emotions has its quality, and is to be experienced and to be shared with other people.
Just checking with myself if there's more questions I want to ask you. I think I'm curious about the community. There is like a radical honesty community around Europe. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, there is a community of people who do more of the work and come more to workshops, and some of them are on the path of becoming trainers and some not. And how I keep up the community after workshops with me and Pete, my partner, we have the closed Facebook group that is very active, so people actively sharing, and then also having calls where they can meet each other for sharing, dancing. So yeah, and people who meet each other, like just now, people are changing phone numbers, so and planning a meetup just to practice together. So there's a lot of opportunities if somebody wants to kind of connect and keep the connections with other people. I think that's like having this level of intimacy and sharing. It's kind of starting the connection already in a new level, and then after a workshop it's kind of easy because I already showed myself in this way. And then even people you never met in real life, meeting them online, and you're part of the gang who agreed to be honest and be present. It's kind of a gift to have people around who are like that. And people are mostly very willing to be available as well, like answer questions or give support.
So if I missed your workshop this weekend, where would I go to find information about other Radical Honesty workshops?
Well, the radicalhonesty.com website, and then honestyeurope.com, which is me and my partner, and then there's the Facebook group. So Radical Honesty Europe is one of the big Facebook groups, and there is one Radical Honesty Copenhagen that's been around as well. It's not super active, but yeah, there's stuff there and possibility to connect.
And are there how many facilitators are there in Europe that are active?
What do we say? 10? 10 maybe? Okay. Yeah, so not that many. And then we have quite a few, another 10 or 15 who are on the trainer path, like Micha.
Yeah. I counted the trainers. I would say it's closer to 15 than 10.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Okay, so it's possible to find around Europe.
There is offer almost every weekend. There is a weekend workshop somewhere, and then there's retreats and online stuff going on quite a bit as well. We also do couples work. So yeah, I think there's a lot going on right now, a lot of opportunities.
Nice. Is there something you want to say that I haven't asked you about?
No.
Really?
I mean, there is zillions of things we can talk about, and I think that was plenty.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot of ground. Yeah. And it is really experiential practice, so like reading a book or watching a video doesn't really do it. So many people are surprised when they come to a workshop and how it is actually in real life. And yeah, like the father with his son this weekend was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting anything like this. That I was crying and sharing these things with my child and witnessing my child in a new way. Yeah.
Well, thank you for coming. Thank you for participating in this little interview.
Sure, you're welcome.